something of a change in the Johannesburg skyline is taking place, and it's not because of new developments, but because of law enforcement. This week, the City of Johannesburg intensified its crackdown on illegal billboards, removing 10 unauthorized advertising structures in a joint operation stretching from Bryanston Shopping Centre along Winnie Mandela Drive towards Sandton. The operation brought together multiple entities, including City Power, the Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department, JMPD, the Johannesburg Roads Agency, JRA, and the Johannesburg Property Company. At the center of this campaign is the message that compliance is not optional. The city says illegal outdoor advertising undermines bylaws, compromises urban planning standards, and in some cases poses safety risks, particularly at busy intersections. Let's speak now to the Executive Director for the Development Planning at the City of Johannesburg, Eric Raboshakga. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. Before we get to your enforcement campaign of the last few days, give us a sense of the scale of the problem. What are we dealing with in terms of illegal advertising? All of us see placards, posters, affixed to lampposts. There's a new trend now of big structures on the side of the highways, some of them being vinyl in terms of the material and being really imposing and large, and also electronic billboards. And there's a sense that outdoor advertising is having its heyday, certainly in Johannesburg. But how much of it is legal? How much of it is illegal?
Thank you very much, Tula Sizu, and I think greetings to you and thank you for having me on the show. So I think the problem really, and the reason why the city decided to stand up and started resolving the problem is because we are realizing that we were losing the battle against the outdoor media housing companies, and we decided to put a stop to it. So you mentioned some of the concerns that we have as a city, the message that we've been sending out there that some of them are too bright, causing accidents, and some of them are along the intersections, which actually cause accidents. And we have not been receiving any applications as a city to try and assess these applications in line with the bylaws and the regulations that we have in place to ensure that there is user safety for motorists and all pedestrians that are using the road. So I think it's for this reason that the city decided to take up these operations and something that we are going to be doing going forward. So we're not going to be stopping in the near future because, to answer your question, the problem is huge. It's significantly huge, and we do need to ensure that we keep up the operations and ensure that there is compliance. But what we ultimately want to achieve, is to ensure that even the people that are, the media companies that are using this outdoor advertising post must ensure that there is compliance before they book a spot for advertising, because we are going to be going into the naming and shaming, but we want to avoid that. We haven't been doing that yet, but we want to ensure that there is that compliance not only from the city side but also from media companies that are also being responsible in how they choose their spots and their agents.
What are the major and common red flags that indicate that a bit of outdoor advertising, billboard and the likes is not compliant with the city bylaws? What are some of the key markers that mark outdoor advertising as being non-compliant that you always look for?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question again. So I think as a member of the public, if there is a sign that is being erected, within 100 meters of an intersection, within an off-ramp, 50 meters of an off-ramp or an on-ramp, that would not be allowed in terms of our bylaws, because obviously, as you can imagine, as you're about to off-ramp, as you're about to hit a traffic light, you don't want the drivers to be, to be interrupted by signage, because that can obviously cause, for obvious reasons, that can cause accidents. So those are some of the, the reasons that you can, some of the things that you can sort of pick out, but also where there is clutter. So obviously, you're not going to have every sign approved by the city within every 20, 30 meters. So at the moment, we are ensuring that there is a safe spacing between between signs and between signs that we are approving as a city. So the spacing that you are seeing and the level of the brightness as well also is also an indicator. If a sign is too bright,
Yeah.
it's not something that has been approved by the city. So we indicate how bright a sign must be in line with our city power colleagues, and obviously there's a way in which we measure that. But obviously, yes, that's the third indicator that we are checking.
Yeah, just on the brightness point there, Mr. Raboshakga, you are preaching to the choir as far as I'm concerned, because I have to drive in the early hours of the morning, and the M1, I can tell you some of the brightness of those electronic billboards is questionable. Are you not guilty, though, as city authorities, of allowing the problem to fester and intervening now at this point when actually the scale of the problem is such that it's huge, and you now are going to battle to bring it back under control? I mean, some of those electronic signs, in fact, the electronic signs and billboards require electricity. Where do they draw their electricity from? There are property owners that are known to you that have allowed erection of these structures to happen right before your eyes. Where were you all along?
So I think I want to use a practical example to respond to your question. You mentioned Bryanston Shopping Centre, where we are dealing with a few illegal advertising signs that are illuminated. And in one of those signs, we have disconnected more than 2 times in the past 3 weeks. We disconnect the sign because they've connected to the electricity illegally, number one, and also they've connected to a line that's not dedicated for for an activity such as the street outdoor advertising. So it's a bit of a challenge for us that you try to enforce the law, they come back tomorrow, and so it's almost as if you are trying to cat and mouse game that you're playing with with outdoor advertising agencies. So you disconnect, they come back and they reconnect, you remove a sign, they come back, they put it back up tomorrow. So I think it's almost as if they've got this attitude that the city will eventually get tired of dealing with these issues. And I think previously we didn't have enough capacity because we were not dealing with this as a city, but specific departments were dealing with this issue. But at the moment, we are approaching this as a city. So basically all the departments that are affected by these activities, JMPD, JRA is on the ground. As you mentioned, development planning, obviously you mentioned city power, to guard against illegal connections, and obviously a JPC as well. So the city has put all its might behind ensuring that we achieve this objective, and as a result, we are able to then remove more signs. I think you indicated earlier that correctly so that we removed 10 signs this week, and we will continue doing so going forward as a city and not as a specific department with limited budgets. But we will not basically give in. So we'll try to find alternative and creative ways of dealing with the problem. I think the one point that we are trying to resolve at the moment as well is we're saying to property owners, we're only removing the structure that you've put up, basically the sheet that you've put up on top of the sign. We're not removing the sign because if we remove it, the cost of removing it is going to be passed on to the property owner. So we're going to be writing to these property owners. In fact, we started that process to say remove the structure in its entirety. Otherwise, we will remove it, and then that cost will be passed on to you, the property owner. And I don't think property owners would appreciate that sort of cost. So it's better if they work with us to remove the illegal signs and the structures.
Who do you consider to be the main enablers of these practices, Mr. Raboshakga? You've alluded quite a bit to media companies, outdoor advertising companies, but the other people in the mix would be your property owners. And I've gotten the sense that some property owners are attracted by the possibility of realizing revenue by allowing some of their spaces to be used. But of course, there are issues of compliance there. So in that mix of players, who's mostly responsible for this state of affairs?
Yeah, I think the problem is so vast that you don't have a specific group of people that are guilty of the problem. So, and as we are on the ground, we're realizing that literally almost everyone wants to be in the space. And because of the illegality that has been going on for a long time, the property owners, the media owners have all just been playing into the space and putting up signs illegally. And we obviously pick up on who the owners are, because every time we had to remove a sign, the owner would appear there and say, look, we want to do the right thing, please don't remove the sign. And that's why we're able to pick up who the property owners are. But there's one other element I want to raise to Lasiso that's also very important for the city. We're picking up that private property owners that are putting up the signs are ignoring their properties, in terms of the maintenance and ensuring that there is activities, there's land use activated on the properties because they are generating so much revenue from the out advertising industries. And that has two significant impacts on the city. One is that the aspect of employment is affected, because these properties that are zoned business, that are supposed to be used for business, are no longer being used for business because property owners don't care about that specific use anymore. But they also don't take care of the property. So it becomes a problem properties for the neighboring properties, for the city, and for the general urban fabric. So it's something that does need to be attended to. So we're trying to, in fact, now, with the review of the bylaws, to ensure that we include some of those elements that property owners don't just ignore the properties, but ensure that they are used for what they are zoned for, but they are well maintained as well. And the city can benefit from the investment that the city has made in terms of roads, infrastructure, water, sewer, and so forth.
So undertaking one operation in which you remove up to 10 illegal advertising structures is one thing. And I would say, with great respect, it is the simpler part of it, given the scale of the problem. What will be the measure of success for you? What have you set for yourselves as a target that we can come back to you in a couple of months and say, you said, as far as this problem is concerned, by the time we get to June, September, it will look different in this regard, and here we are, and then hold you accountable for that. Do you have any marker of success and how you will measure it?
No, absolutely. We do have. So we are targeting, because the industry in itself targets the main corridors. So we're targeting the main corridors, and the intention is that by the end of this calendar year, we have cleaned out all the corridors, and all the signs that you are seeing are legal signs, and there is no overly bright signs that are sitting on the road. So by the end of the year, there should not be any clutter, there should not be any illegal signs, there should not be any bright signs or any dangerous signs for that matter. So we've given ourselves a target to say by the end of the calendar year, we should have been done with this exercise, and then just monitoring and ensuring that it does not happen again going forward.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you for your time. That's Executive Director for Development Planning in the City of Johannesburg, Eric Raboshakga.